everyone, Kelvinator here, and today we are gonna dive into a new and exciting feature, namely positional familiarity. Over the past 2 weeks, MFL has introduced two really exciting new features. One is positional familiarity, which I'll talk about today, and in the next video I'll talk about team instructions, which was released also very recently and is really changing the game totally. And set pieces are coming up. You can already see the button here teasing us a little bit, but that's not yet been released. So let's talk about positional familiarity. What does that mean? So it means that players now can play anywhere on the field. So Bessa here, my favorite striker, he could play technically as a center back, but this will carry a penalty. He could also play as a center defender mid, but this will carry a penalty. So you can play them everywhere, whatever you think is best for them, but you might get penalized for that, and that might discourage you to play it. So it really matters way more now where you put them on the field, and that might change their performance. It might change their attributes, let's say. So let's take Bessa for example. So he has 3 positions. His natural position is right winger. So he is a right winger. But he also has 2 secondary positions. He's a striker and he's a left winger. So we can see it here beautifully on this graphic. So his natural position is right winger. That's why that's super green. So this means he has no penalty. It's 0 secondary and tertiary position is striker and left winger. And for that, he will get a penalty. So you can see him, I put him as a striker, it's a secondary position, and he gets a -1 penalty. Now, if you looked carefully, you saw that he is an 81 rated right winger, but suddenly he is an 82 striker while he got that penalty. So how is that possible? Because overall changes with the position he put it in. Ali Coleman has made a beautiful tool to calculate this for each of your player. Go check it out. I'll put a link in the description so you can check for your players what is their overall. So Bessa is 83 overall as a striker. Because he has a penalty for secondary, it's now -1. So natural, no penalty as a right winger. Secondary as a striker, -1. Now if you look at him, you can also see that he has a yellowish color there as a right midfielder. This means that he is somewhat familiar, or like fairly familiar as a right mid. I should say fairly familiar it is. So we put him as a right mid, and this will carry a -5 penalty. But because his overall at this position is 70 with his skills, it means he is now 65. So he is somewhat familiar there, fairly familiar there, so that's a -5. He is somewhat familiar as a right wingback, so let's put our formation to a wingback formation, 5-3. We put him here as a right wingback, and now he is 55. So he is a 63 in this position. The penalty for somewhat familiar is -8, so now he is a 55. So you can see how his score, let's say his overall, is changing everywhere because of those penalties. Now he could also technically play as a center back now, Bessa. Let's put him as a center back. But now he gets this -20 penalty because he's totally not familiar as a central defender. So 57 in the position, 37. So as a right winger, he is 81 because it's his natural position. His secondary position gets a -1 hit as a striker. We saw as a right mid, let's put something of a right mid, we saw him as a -8, as a -5, right wingback as a -8, and now defender -20. So you can see you can play them everywhere, but their overall changes, one, because of his attributes, his overall will be different, and 2, because of the penalty, because of his familiarity. So this matters quite a bit right now, because before I could play Bessa anywhere in this front free, it wouldn't affect his overall, his attribute. And for example, Schwab is a nice example because I could play him before also as, let's say, a cam, and then he would still have the same score, but now he also gets a little penalty there. Why is this also really impacting the game? Because people now have to think with what formation would I get the most out of my players, let's say. So before you could get away with putting players a bit better, like into different positions, it wouldn't affect their scores. Now they get a little bit of a penalty. So this really changed, like, what formation are you going to play to get the maximum out of it. I think a good example for that is the Corsair Cove. So in the Corsair Cove, I now change their formation to 5-2-3. Why is that? Because I want this guy to shine in one of my teams. Galan, I really like this player. He has great stats, but he can only play as a wingback in his natural position and in a secondary position. If he plays as a right back, he already gets a big hit. So if I put it at 4-3-3, for example, I put Galan here, he already gets a -5 hit. That's way too much for me. So I really want to utilize him as a wingback. And that's why I decided to turn this team, let's reset it, this team, the Corsair Cove, into 5-2-3, where I use wingbacks. So now in one of my Iron teams, I'll use wingbacks, while in the other Iron teams, I play with normal right backs and left backs. So I've decided to change formations, to already decide which formations the Corsair Cove and Calva juniors will play, to make sure I have space for all my players to perform better. So here I use right mids and left mids and CDMs. In the Corsair Cove, I can show you, I don't use CDMs at all. I put CMs, so pure CMs have the opportunity to shine here, and the wingbacks. And in the Calva Juniors, the third Iron team, I play a 4-3-3, so there is space for pure wingers to play. So in each Iron team, I put a different formation so I can utilize the maximum potential for each player as far as possible. So this must be the same for all other managers, so it's really affecting the game a lot. It's also a bit sad sometimes because I used to play one guy up front as a striker before center forwards could play as a striker. This guy Moreno, one of my favorite strikers. He used to be able to play as a striker, but now it's not possible anymore, only with somewhat familiar. So if I play him as a striker, without a penalty, it would be 69. So it would be really nice to play him as a striker. Also, if you look at his stats, great pace, great shooting. But now he gets his -5 penalty, so I'm really discouraged to play him there. I could still play him as a cam with a -1 hit, but then he's 60 in this position because he just has super high shooting and pace. So it really changes the game. It really forces you to make a lot of new decisions and see which formation works to get the maximum potential out of my players and the best results. So this is the feature of positional familiarity. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we'll talk about team instructions, which will also totally change the game. Thank you for watching and see you next time.